I'm Carolyn Young, Chief Executive of Retail NZ, and welcome to today's episode. We will be discussing retail crime. It's the June 2024 update. I'm joined by Matt Tierney, who is the manager of the Police National Retail Investigation Support Unit. Kia ora, Matt, and welcome along.
Kia ora, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Look, we're going to spend less than 10 minutes having a chat about the current state of crime, so please grab a coffee, take a break, and let's listen in about what are the key things people need to be looking at right now. And I guess one of the things that members sometimes say to me, Matt, is, there's some offences occurred in their store and they don't always see the police. What's the importance of reporting everything, either through the Aura system or 10.5?
So firstly, if the offender is present, call 111, and police will do everything in their power to get there. Notwithstanding, there is a prioritisation matrix that happens for attendance and jobs, so you may or may not see police, but they will be there in the background. If the offender has left, then it's the 10.5. You can either phone call 10.5 or you can use the online web form, which I would strongly advocate for. For retailers, it's great because you can save it partially way through, and you can go and see the customer and you can come back and complete it. You're able to upload pictures of offenders or pictures of cars, not CCTV there, but if you hold that CCTV locally, then we can access it from you if we need it at a later time. That data is then used for us to make deployment decisions around where we will put our staff. So it's really, really crucially important that you do report all theft or all occurrences that are in your retail stores. We use that data to look at times of the day, times of the week or days of the week, and locations in which we should send police staff into beat patrols to try and deter criminals from committing offences, not only in your shop, but also in the precinct that you operate in. So please, report that. It is really, really important. The other thing is you may initially get a filing letter from police, whether that's virtually through email, or you might get a physical copy of a letter saying the matter has been filed. And that's where my team comes in after that fact, is that we look for patterns of offenders that are recidivist in nature and violent and aggressive towards frontline retail staff. Even if the matter is filed, and in fact, most cases, most of the matters that we deal with are filed, we will look at the offender themselves and reactivate all the files that are assigned or have that person as listed as a suspect, and we'll investigate that as a whole. We will then collate them all together, and rather than just presenting the court with one theft or other, we may do 20, 30, 40, or in some cases even 50 offences for the court, which gives them the ability to make a much more accurate and realistic sentence for the scale of offending that this offender is doing. We know that they're borderless. We know they travel across New Zealand. We know they have a range of values that they offend from, and a range of items that they take from, and a range of stores that they take from. So if we can give the judge, when they're sentencing that offender, all of that information, it creates a much better environment, much more appropriate sentence. The other thing that really is really good in that regard is when people are first appearing in court and we're able to give them that level of information, we can get them held into custody, into jail a lot more, or on really restrictive movements around 24-hour electronically monitored bail, because again, the judge can see the scale of the supposed scale of offending. So again, that means that they won't be able to commit offences whilst they're on remand or whilst they're on bail. And similarly, when they're sentenced as well, that means that they can't continue to commit offences. So all of those things combined makes for a much better outcome. So please, please, please report things to us. It's really important.
Yeah, and it's great to see that the police are having some good success using technology to our benefit, taking that data and being able to analyse it and work out, how we catch these offenders and being able to present the total picture to the judge. It's really important. So, look, thank you so much for that work that you're doing. The other thing we are noticing and have heard some reports back is we are seeing police out in the beat a bit more. That's a concerted effort, is that right?
Yeah, there's a nationwide focus on getting the police out and about, visible, walking the beats, particularly in our metro and central business district areas. We really need to combat the perceptions of safety in those areas. And one of the key ways that we can increase those feelings of safety is that, they see sworn police officers in blue wandering around, talking to people, interacting, making the whole area feel a whole lot safer. So there's been a concerted effort, and there will continue to be a concerted effort around increasing that visibility certainly in those central business district areas.
It does give both customers and retailers that confidence too. I think, when there's been such a high level of really, a lot of reporting on a small number of activities that are very aggressive and violent in nature, it does make everybody feel quite sensitive around what's happening. Am I safe? Should I be going to the mall? Is my store safe? Those sorts of things. So great to see the police out and about more. When we think about those aggravated robberies that occurred in the last sort of couple of months, there was a whole spate of things that have been happening up in Auckland. I know you can't talk about a lot of those things because they're in front of the court right now, but what does the police manage to be able to achieve in terms of those spaces? Have you managed to catch some of those offenders?
So really important that you mentioned before, these events are very loud in the media. They're very serious when it relates to victims, and in some cases extremely violent as well, involving weapons. But it's worthwhile to remember that these are not big numbers of offences that we're talking about. They're, like I said, they're extremely loud, but they're not a big in number. The criminal investigation branch of the New Zealand Police, which is where the detectives and the detective sergeants and senior sergeants operate from, they investigate serious crime for the police. They have a very high clearance rate or apprehension rate of these offenders from these serious crimes, somewhere in about the 80th percentile. So we might not capture every single person that's involved in that occurrence or that event, that aggravated robbery or ram raid or whatever that is, but we'll catch, the majority of them that are involved in that event. From the ones that have recently happened in largely the greater Auckland areas, Waikato North to sort of the northern side of Auckland as well, the stats are the same in relation to that. We've caught a number of offenders. They're all currently before the courts. Unfortunately, the majority of them are juveniles. So again, we can't talk that publicly about it because it is all still being contested before the courts, but they are apprehended. And yeah,
I guess one of the other bits of data I was just thinking about, Matt, was I do know that you've got stats around offenders in retail in general, not specifically, but you do know that I think you've said to me 50% of the offences are by male and 50% by female. So, I guess for retailers not to perceive that if a woman's coming in the store versus a man, there's less likelihood that something will go wrong. But we're seeing offences across both genders in fairly equal portions. Is that right?
That's for theft, yes. For theft from shops, definitely from retail shops. Your more serious end is still predominantly male. So aggravated robberies and ram raids and that kind of stuff is still very much predominantly male. But for thefts that happened a lot more commonly than those aggravated robberies and stuff, yes, absolutely. It's nearly 50-50 male-female. So
if a retailer has an offender in store for a theft and they call 111, should they be trying to keep the offender in store? What's the recommendation there?
It's a very difficult one. There are a lot of factors to consider in that. Not probably the first one is that your individual safety as a retailer to have that person in that store. And it may 9 times out of 10 be the most simplest way is to attempt to recover your property and then let the offender leave. Record, use your CCTV, take photographs, whatever you can do, body cameras, whatever you've got to record that incident taking place. But often if you try and prevent someone from leaving, it escalates the situation to a whole lot worse. And nobody deserves to be assaulted in their retail environment or even abused, verbally, even in their retail environment. So that is a very challenging space. And really the key to that is dealing with that situation before it gets to that stage. So the key to, managing an offender, if you want to call it that, or managing a customer is really interacting with them at the earliest stage and making sure that they know that you're aware of their presence and they're aware of your presence. And a deterring factor is taken from offenders. We know that offenders don't like being spoken to. They don't like being interacted with. They will seek out locations where they can go about their business in the shadows, if you like, and have no interactions.
So we know in retail that customer service is so important. So I guess it makes it in 2024 really important. Make sure you welcome customers coming into your store, go up and greet them, ask them if you can help them, if you feel that they fit into a category that, that they might have offended before in your store, that they are on some of the local presences, actually just continue to be in their presence and talk to them because they'll probably turn around and walk back out the store.
Yeah, in the vast majority of cases they will, particularly if you get onto them early enough. If they've already stolen or concealed the item on their person or whatever that is, it can be a lot more difficult at that stage. But if it's at the front end that you're dealing with someone and there's plenty of crime science evidence to back this up, the active management of that person at a really early stage is a really good determination fact. There is always going to be people that it wouldn't matter if there was a police officer standing there and they tried to, stop them. They're motivated to do whatever they're going to do, and you are going to get those people, but still the absolute vast majority is they don't want to be interacted with at all. So you can defeat them relatively easy, I guess. They are looking for soft targets. They're looking for the easy wins. They just want to go about their job, if you like, their theft job, in the easiest way possible. So any which way that you can make that slightly more difficult or slightly more annoying for them to do that, then I would, attempt to do that within obviously the realms of law and policy and all that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah. And so if you feel that you're being targeted in terms of your store, what is it, is there any other tools and tricks that someone should do besides that customer service to stop offenders coming into your location?
Well, first and foremost, I would go onto the retail crime website, which is for the New Zealand Police, which you can either Google or you can go through the Retail NZ website, and there is links to that on there. There's a whole lot of useful stuff on there that you should familiarise yourself with. There is training videos, there is merchandise that can be printed out. There's a whole lot of information around the statistics of retail crime and what's happening currently in there. So, familiarise yourself with that. See if you can make any changes in your environment to reduce the likelihood of being offended against as well. There are crime prevention through environmental design guides on there that can give you helpful hints around making things less appealing. Because that's all you have to do. Just make it less appealing and they will move on to somewhere else that's easier, more appealing for them.
And when Matt says about making it less appealing, it doesn't mean make your shop less appealing, it's making it less appealing for the offenders.
Make it less appealing for the offenders, yeah.
Yeah, we still want your shop to be appealing, but just making sure that you're looking at those resources and seeing how, what does your shop's layout look like? Is there good visibility from the street? All of those factors to think a little bit around, what makes your store safe and keeps you safe as well.
The single biggest thing is that interaction, though. That is the absolute biggest thing. You could have the most well-designed store, the best lighting, all of the things. If you're not interacting with that individual at the earliest opportunity, then you're missing a really key factor there.
Yeah. So customer service, customer service, customer service. That's the most important thing. Look, Matt, thanks so much for joining us today. It's always a pleasure to speak with you and hearing what the National Retail Investigation Support Unit has been doing to support retail in our sector. We know that it's a really tough job and that you're doing some really amazing things. So, thank you once again, and a special thanks to the Retail NZ partners whose support enables us to keep you up to date with everything retail. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Thanks for taking a few minutes out of your day and hope you enjoyed your coffee. And don't forget to subscribe to Retail Unplugged on your preferred channel so that you can keep up to date with all the current industry knowledge. Thanks very much. Ka kite anō. Bye for now. Kia ora.